Greetings, everyone. Today is April 10th, 2026. I am Shonda with Earth Mother Media, and I am speaking to you from behind the circle of one fire and via the Earth Mother Nation here in the High Plains Desert bioregion of West Central Texas, on the headwaters of the great Colorado River in the traditional lands of the Tigua, Kickapoo, and Lapanapachi. We're coming live to you from the Global Fire Ceremony Room on One World Earth. Tonight, we have a very special feature here on the One World Community Watch Party for Peace, the fundraiser premiere of Cosmic Contact, which is a 30-minute episode of In Search of the Future of the series. And at this time, it is my honor to introduce our moderator for the evening, Mr. Scott Catamas from the Awakening World. Welcome, brother.
Well, thank you very much, Shonda. Welcome, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces coming into our Zoom room, and we have a beautiful evening planned. Want to let you know what we're going to do. We're going to have a brief introduction, hear from Connie and Andrew, our wonderful friends who have made this film. And then we're going to watch a 30-minute film that's got some really powerful interviews with some of our favorite luminaries, talking about what's really going on in the cosmic world and what's happening with our galactic family. We're then going to have a Q&A conversation. I'm going to take your questions, so we want to hear from you. And joining us live will be Patrick McCollum. He's actually already in the room with us. And a couple of other people that you will meet and see in the film. Patrick, of course, and then, well, we'll introduce them afterwards because we're going to do a whole introduction, but it's going to be a chance for you to ask questions after watching these wonderful, wonderful people that are so wise and beautiful luminaries. Now, this is a hybrid experience. So, of course, right now I'm primarily talking to our Zoom room audience, but also we are with Rita Marsh, who's coming to us live from Colorado, and there she is.
I would like to start the program with acknowledgement of the people who were here before us, the Nooch, the people who were stewards of the land. So that all will know, we acknowledge that this land where we live is the ancestral homeland of Nooch, the indigenous people who were forcibly removed. We respect the enduring and nurturing relationships that exist between people and land. We aspire to heal by being in balance with the land and respecting it in a living way, as did Mitch. The Center for Human Flourishing has been in existence since 2003, and we present programs in integral health to the community here, and also now with the expansion of the network through Sign Network, Unity Earth, and other partners, our programs are going global. So I appreciate so much all the support we've had here in the community. I'm so proud tonight to welcome again my good friends and colleagues, entrepreneurs, photographers, videographers, and just amazing folk. Connie, Baxter, Marlow, and Andrew Cameron Bailey.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. You know, 5 minutes ago, this room was empty, and now it's packed. What's up with that? That was exciting.
So great to be back at the Third Street Center with our boss, Rita Marsh, who's been commanding us for decades. She actually got us to finish our book, The Trust Frequency and Assumptions for a New Paradigm. It's for sale back there. And now she's hosting us for this great event with Cosmic Contact with our friends that you're going to be meeting here. So do you want to say anything?
Yes, firstly, this is not a film. It is an episode of a film series. There's a difference. So a film has a beginning, middle, and end, and so on. This is different from that. This is an episode from approximately 250 interviews or message gatherings that we did all over the planet.
Messages to catalyze a new future.
Over the last 3 years or so. And so this one is an experiment to see whether we can find themes within this massive body of work that we have. Because how do you make a single documentary film, shall we say, with 250 characters? Everybody gets 19 seconds, or how does it work out? See what I mean? So the idea came to us. What if it's a series? What if it goes on forever? It's called In Search of the Future. So when do we stop shooting? Whenever the future shows up. Every time I taste the future, it keeps disappearing over the horizon. So we might just be shooting this forever as life unfolds. And we'll have some material that's from the past, some's from yesterday, and it's a sort of a experimental, artistic collection of the most beautiful people, wise people, intelligent people, often outrageous people we know. Anybody see the film that was just in the valley here? The Man Who Saves the World? Yes.
Question mark.
So, he's in the room.
And he's,
Right up there.
he's still at it.
And we just got back from Jacoby down in Colombia. Did an extraordinary journey down there with Sally Ranney from the valley here and two other men.
Patrick McCollum is his name.
Talking about Reverend Patrick McCollum. These people are just extraordinary on the one hand, and secondly, selected for the content of what they said in their interviews. And the common thread is aliens, UAPs, UFOs, NHI. Do you know NHI? Non-human intelligence. You seem to be on the brink of something completely over the top, outrageous. And you're about to meet some of the masters and mistresses in that particular field. Okay, so that's a common thread here. And I think that's about enough because the film won't speak for itself.
Yes, and what you'll hear from these folks is it's about us accessing our hearts and that vibratory level that the ETs are waiting for us to reach so that we can come together as a cosmic family and bring peace on Earth and all sorts of good stuff. So we'll screen the film now, and then we'll have a discussion, roundtable discussion, including the audience, you folks, and the Zoom audience, with 4 of the players in the film. One of them couldn't make it. She got stuck in some road traffic, Birdie Jaworski, which is unfortunate, but you can go to her website and learn more about her incredible work of teaching remote viewing and telepathic communication, because that's what we have to get to communicate with these folks. So let's carry on.
All right, so we are really proud to present this. Finished editing it this morning, okay? It's fresh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome to In Search of the Future, the series. Cosmic Contact. This episode is on the subject of aliens, UFOs, NHI, which stands for non-human intelligence, and all of these mysterious subjects that have been intriguing and puzzling humanity for a long time. That's the theme of this episode. And Connie?
Yes, well, we're just so excited that humanity has reached the vibratory level where contact with our cosmic family is imminent. As we open our hearts and align with that frequency we call the trust frequency. So everyone just listen up, ponder your avenue into the future.
And here are some friends of ours who are pretty darn amazing. I think you'll agree. Here we go.
One of the things that's really excited me about the potential for the future, what's coming, is over the last 4 years, I've been living with and interacting with the Kogi people. And for those who don't know, they're one of the most remote tribes on the planet Earth. but in particular, they speak of being the star people. And living in their villages, they have stones where they have carvings of the entire universe and where different star systems are and such. And they have incredible stories about how they traveled from those stars to where they are now. In fact, one of the really interesting things for them is their most sacred thing is the conch shell, because they believe that the conch shell is a map of the galaxy that we live in and that everything is placed on it. Well, the reason this stuff about the star people and things really touches me is, number one, the Kogi say that they carry the wisdom of the star people and that they intend to come into the world, which they have started to do, and to share more and more about our potential as human beings for the future because of the wisdom that they are bringing to share, which came from the stars.
Come to us every time. When I was a little fella, the one must have been this high, and I was about this high. And he stayed with me for 4 years. And if you ever felt to touch a frog, his skin is the same as the frog.
Okay, when I was about 16, 17, in 1968 was my first eye contact with a 3 to 4 story eye spaceship. Now this ship was silence, not going. It was just hovering there like that. And that's what got me, the sound. There was no sound. So I was using my inner dimension to look inside. And they were doing the same to me. They was reading me and I was reading them.
Part of what ET contact is about, and I can speak from experience because I've had it for my entire life. And since I do remember coming in and incarnating in, contact for me was natural. I was waiting for the beings to come because it's family. It's a family connection. And we can get caught up on, just because of what's in media and whatnot, we can get caught up on the technology, or we can get caught up on, maybe too much that's in the mind. And one of the things that I can share about contact is it's very much a primordial part of ourself. It's part of our ancient DNA. And when that gets stimulated, that ancient DNA gets stimulated, there's a reconnection, and this reconnection that's occurring in our body. And it's on such a unique level that goes on within our body that, of course, our mind changes and things shift. But what you can do is you can go out and you can go in the night sky, you can even go in the day sky, and you can ask to receive, you can ask to make communion, you can ask to make connection. And if you can ask in a way that's very genuine about a reconnection within yourself, there's a good probability it's going to happen. And so, for example, if you happen to be, let's say, thinking of a loved one, maybe that you haven't spoken to for a while, and maybe somebody that you have some disagreement or discordance with, but someone that you do love, that you do care about, and then all of a sudden you feel a feeling in your heart, and let's say you look up in the sky and you see a ship, you see a flash of light, and you see something that you know is specifically meant for you. That's part of that confirmation. And so contact doesn't necessarily have to be a ship coming down, a being coming out, shaking your hand, and then, giving you everything about life. That's not what this is about. The initial steps, those initial phases are about a genuine reconnection within our heart, with the people around us, the people that we are here to also serve and support. That's what I know Contact is about. And it's available to anybody and everybody who seeks and wants that connection as we're evolving here on Mother Earth and as the cosmos is evolving with us.
We're all just cosmic humans, laughing and crying and learning and being just who we are. We're human, but we're also made of stars. We're made of stars.
I had an extraordinary experience. Amongst other extraordinary experiences, this one ranks very high because it had to do with on the third night of the Palisades Malibu fire recently. Devastating, apocalyptic fires. I looked up from my balcony and I saw out over the ocean what I thought was a meteor coming into the earth. There was a stratospheric halo as it entered. And I immediately was watching to see if it would fall, but it didn't fall into the ocean, it turned. And it drifted behind these very large, dark smoke clouds. I had photographed this orb, whatever it is, about 15 or 20 years ago. And because it was handheld, it was bounced all over the place. I could not get a good shot. But this time, knowing that, I ran up, I put my elbows down on the balcony, and I took my camera and aimed it. Well, I was aiming at the clouds. I wasn't expecting anything, but this orb suddenly came out of the clouds and was moving closer and closer to me. I was having that inner sense of like, is this a good thing? But it was directing itself at me. It lasted for 7 seconds. And what is astounding, because the experience itself was so remarkable and tied into on an apocalyptic night like this, the fires that I had experienced directly 6 years before. And the narrative, the underpinning story during these apocalyptic times is that there is a pulse, there's something that is triggering a transformation, a type of metamorphosis. And I was very, very moved by what had happened to me because I took the film, the 7 seconds, and I went frame by frame. And I started to see what is a classic UFO light ship, classic alien with the big heads and the large eyes, and then sigils and glyphs and phantoms and ghosts. What it was a type of wave of suggestiveness. And I started to think about what is it in a plant? What's in a frog? Why does a frog move from being a tadpole into climbing out onto the land? What is it in a flower that goes from a bud to a blossom? And this is what I started to discover because my home, my art, has all grown out of this sacred location because I live on Chumash, ancient Chumash, sacred land. And because I do, I've always felt like a custodian. It's not mine to own, it's mine to caretake. And in that response, I feel this is what the ancestors here desired as well. Not to own, but to caretake. And that's why this orb felt like a gardener or a guardian. It wasn't something that was meant to show up and say, I am this. Because everything in my work, everything in my art having to do with the language of the watchers, the crop circles, all of these elements do not stay. They don't leave a signature because essentially they are trying to trigger our curiosity. They're not trying to fill in like a parent would, oh, this children is what you need to know. It's the very things that are not stated, that are implied, that leaves it up to us to put the story together. So I put the story together. Here I am on sacred land at a time of incredible fires, once again. So this is not something that you can resist. It's something that's upon you. And this is what the apocalypse is. It's upon us. But if we don't look at it as something that is awful and negative, although that fire was awful and negative, but realize that the counterpoint to what's going on is to get us to trust that we're to develop a relationship, not by answering a mystery like a whodunit, like Agatha Christie, but actually answering the mysteries of life, which, like love, are not figure-outable. They are that which we must allow, because it's not the head. And this was what was fascinating for this orb. I realized whatever was triggering me was not personal. It was part of my symbolical human structure. Because if you think about it, what is it that triggers a flower to blossom? It's not told to blossom. Something within the organism itself begins to respond differently. So my sense is that the UAPs are part of a leavening process. It's not an invasion. It's a type of catalyst, meaning that only if we discover that it must be through ourselves as human, that we determine the relationship with these qualities, that will we begin to mature. Otherwise, we are essentially allowing ourselves, like children, to say we are not that. And the truth behind all of this, yes, we are. We don't live in a linear reality. We live in a holographic reality. Everything is expressing this truth. And when we understand that, there's no there in a hologram. So what we do is create coordinate points and places of interaction where we can create forms of communication. And this is what's happening. The communication is not to fill in what's missing. It's what is not there for us to bring out of ourselves the answers that can't be known through someone else, because it's how do we establish a relationship within ourselves, trust our own energies, and realize that relationships that can't be proven, don't stick around long enough to point your finger at, are not doing that because it's wrong. It's doing it because we're maturing. It's not showing up to fill in. It's showing up to draw out. And that's what my art is. The questions I asked, literally, I drew them out.
It must be so silly for aliens to look at humans and be like, wait a second.
Aliens have a lot of patience. Aliens have a lot of patience because we are very far ahead. And so humans are, they're just trying to find their way, and we're letting them. We're letting them find their way. We're being patient about it, okay?
Some would ask, why be patient when you could just intervene with all your technology and just like help us?
Free will.
Free will.
Earth has the contract of free will, and so they cannot intervene unless we ask them.
Unless we are asked, blatantly asked for help, we cannot intervene because it is your destiny.
Also, though, there has to be like a mass tipping point. There has to be a mass tipping point in order for you to help the collective at whole. So right now you're helping people individually, which is why you come and talk to me, so that I can share share the info with the folks.
Through your music. It's
all part of the plan.
In 1977, I was first contacted when President Carter was elected to participate in a top secret report to President Carter about the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence and this possible connection to the UFO phenomenon. That whole activity that I began engaging in at that time led to my being made general counsel for the Disclosure Project, which is a major project to bring together government employees and military officials, etc., to provide information to the press at the National Press Club in 2001 about the extraterrestrial potential presence on our planet. I've also served as legal counsel for Dr. John Mack at Harvard University when he was dragged up in front of a tribunal because of his writing a book about the psychological events around these contact experiences. I now represent Luis Elizondo, who was the head of the top secret program in the Pentagon investigating the UFO phenomenon. It's in that context that I've come to grips with the potential philosophical and theological implications of our human family not, in fact, residing at the apex of all intelligent life in the entire universe. And we're now working in a 501c3 a public interest organization that has been created by our Romero Institute to address these profound philosophical, theological, and geopolitical questions that need to be engaged in by our human family in order to adjust our human worldviews, which are extraordinarily homocentric, into a better understanding of our actual place in the cosmic order. This is going to be an entirely new paradigm. This is going to complete the entire octave of different human worldviews that actually place us in a more realistic context for the future, because we have another several thousand years of relationship that we're going to be engaged in with the extraterrestrial civilization, which native people and indigenous people have known for many hundreds of years and have talked about regularly, the star people. So this is an extraordinary period in our human history and in the history of Western civilization to actually begin to finally integrate the kind of cosmological worldview that indigenous people have had. And we are right here within basically 2 weeks of St. Francis, or Pope Francis, having actually denounced the doctrine of discovery, which since 1493 has insisted that the European culture had the right to vanquish the indigenous people of the world. And we now have to start adjusting how we're going to be integrating the bona fide viewpoints of the indigenous people into our view of our human family in Western civilization. I'm privileged to be the head of that 501c3 public interest operation that's going on now, that will be the UFO C3. And I'm in dialogue with people in the United States Senate Intelligence Committee that have now mandated the creation of a new office in the United States government, to which all the information needs to be conveyed from all of our U.S. military services, all the defense contractors, all of the intelligence agencies now, so that the Congress of our United States can start to participate in this extraordinary period that we are now engaged in, at the same time that the James Webb Telescope is discovering more and more of these exoplanets, where they're now becoming more and more convinced that intelligent life exists. So this is an extraordinary moment in our human family, where all of these forces are coming together at the same time that our human family is confronted by the threats of global climate change, which the indigenous people have been warning us about for decades. That we're contaminating our whole planet, that our human family, right from the very beginning, in moving across the Turtle Island here, we're just laying waste to the environment and destroying the buffalo and leaving them rotting in the sun. The complete disharmony between the European culture and the natural order of things. So this is an extraordinary period of integrating all of these different worldviews into forming a new worldview that can take into account our proper human place in the natural environment of our entire universe.
The portals are opening, the timelines are shifting, the paradigms are transcending. Humanity is awakening, our light is expanding. It's time for us to dance and sing.
We are about to reach the most important moment in our entire human history. We are about to meet our cosmic family. For eons, humans have interacted with non-human intelligence. Thousands upon thousands of people across the entire globe have reported sightings, encounters, and all kinds of cool phenomenon associated with those. And over the past 30 years, I have been communicating with some of our cosmic family, and I'm teaching others to do the same. It's important to think about our future with our family amongst the stars. They are going to teach us, we are going to learn from them, and they are going to learn from us. It's going to be a synergistic relationship. This is the most important time any of us could even possibly conceive. I am so excited to be alive in this moment, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Humanity is on a strong evolutionary path right now. The divine feminine is coming into our energy. We're starting to recognize each other telepathically, and we're getting signals across our entire planet that it's time for us to make some big changes and think about ourselves in a broader perspective as more loving, kinder, and more friendly to our neighbors across our entire planet, and reach our hands now across the stars.
When do we get to see more of you?
Yeah, when are you coming to the Earth in groups?
Well, the Ascended Masters and divine cosmic beings and the aliens are already here. In order for you to see us and connect with us, you raise your vibration. Through meditation, through loving unconditionally, through communing with nature, through prayer. Match your light up with their light and ask that they shower you within their light. It's like creating a tube of white light.
I've been asked a number of times whether or not there is a reasonable likelihood that the extraterrestrial civilization will intervene in some way to try to save us from ourselves. And I always respond to that with this, that I tell the story about a young boy who loved butterflies. And he used to collect butterflies, and he had this huge, aviary place out in his backyard where the butterflies could live in their own habitat. And he wanted to find an example of a monarch butterfly. And he actually found a cocoon of a monarch butterfly, and he brought it home, and he put it in a little box with cotton and put lights on it to keep it warm. And it eventually started to develop, and it was the butterfly had developed and was trying to break out of the cocoon, and it was struggling and struggling, and it was struggling against the last silken thread of the cocoon to try to break free, and it was struggling and struggling, and the little boy started feeling so badly about this problem that the butterfly was having, that he got a little pair of shears and he cut the last silken thread that was struggling, that he was struggling against, and the butterfly came free, and it was an absolutely perfect specimen of a monarch butterfly, except that it could never fly, because as it turns out, it was in the struggle, in that last struggle against that last silken thread, that would develop the muscle structure that it needed to fly. That's the condition of our human family at the present time. We're struggling against the silken threads that we have woven around ourselves, that the indigenous people have been talking about Western culture for hundreds of years, that we have to break that last silken thread ourselves in order to qualify for the next worldview that we have to come to together, and we have to bring all the people of our planet together in unison to share all of the insights that have been developed down through the many centuries, to really bring to bear, to develop this new worldview that we have to have in order to qualify for citizenship in the much larger universal family.
SETI stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And for those who may have seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, and they showed those giant dish antennas in the movie, that is SETI. And so SETI was built by our government to interact with aliens or extraterrestrial intelligence. Well, I have a remote ranch out in the wilderness of New Mexico, and just by chance, my driveway, which is nearly 30 miles long, at the beginning of it is where the first aliens of the Roswell incident crashed, literally just off my driveway. And my neighbor out there, a gentleman whose last name is Barnett and was featured on Time magazine about the Roswell incident, is the person who found the first ships that crashed, and also the person who dragged the one thought to be living alien out of the ship and kind of protected him. And then the government came and took him and started Area 51 and took the ship away. Well, Barnett and I got to know each other some, and he asked me if I'd like to see part of the spaceship. And he took me to a barn, and he had some pieces of the metal from the actual spaceship that the aliens crashed in. And he went on to tell me that the alien that he had helped did not speak, but that he could feel its thoughts, and that it was not a malevolent kind of an energy, but rather a loving and caring energy. And he felt very safe with this alien, and his heart really hurt that they took the alien away. Well, the government came and they took into custody all the people that lived in the part of the New Mexico, this is where my ranch is located. They took them all and they deprogrammed them for months, but they did not take Barnett. He ran into the mountains on his horse and they didn't capture him, and then he later shared the story. Well, the government said nothing happened. There weren't aliens, there weren't star people, they didn't come to planet Earth to talk to us or do anything. But I have a question I always like to ask people, and that is this. They built the very first SETI site just off the end of my driveway. So they spent millions of dollars back in the 1950s, what might have been hundreds of $1,000,000 today. And then not too many miles away, they built what's called the VLA, the Very Large Array, which until just recently was the largest telescope on Earth that could speak to outer space and the stars. And the question I have is, if there aren't aliens and there aren't extraterrestrials and there isn't extraterrestrial intelligence who's come to help guide us in the future, then why did they spend something over $1 billion building these intense scientific instruments to speak to people in the stars?
Excuse me? Excuse me?
Yeah, what's up?
Are all aliens little gray beings like you?
I get this question all the time. No, there are so many types of aliens. We got Andromedans, Arcturians, Anunnaki, Cassiopeans, Draconians, Lyrans, Mantids, Reptilians, Pleiadians, Sirians, Zetas, which are grays, but so many other types of grays as well. And then don't even get me started on hybrids. That's aliens and humans together. Hope that helps.
It takes all kinds, to make a village.
Wow. Big wow. I'm going to go to gallery view and just want to, let's all send twinkles and love and appreciation for an amazing, beautiful, so well done video. Congratulations, Connie and Andrew. That was terrific. We're going to, what we're going to do is I'm going to read some of the comments from you, our audience. So please put into the chat box your thoughts about what you just saw, and I'm going to read some of the comments. I'll then turn it over to Rita, and if anybody in the live audience wants to express their appreciation or their comments, please do so. And then we're going to have a, excuse me, a wonderful panel discussion. So, wow, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So here we go. The reawakened Andrew Kane writes, absolutely brilliant and wonderful. Ayada writes, that's the real gem right there, what Danny just shared about the butterfly. That touched me too, that, you know, we can't we have to really develop our own strength. We can't wait for Deus Ex Machina, the gods, to come and save us. We have to do it ourselves. So I sure would like their support, that's for sure. Scotty Satori just sending his love and appreciation. And Reverend Jeffrey says, yes, I also enjoyed David Clement's point of view, and he put in a link. Dorina Joy is coming to us from Ecuador. By the way, I want to acknowledge we've got people from all over the world with us. Dorina Joy in Ecuador, my friend Dalila in Australia, people all over the United States. So it's really fun. We've got truly a global peace tribe watching our show tonight. All right, more comments. Susan Bloomquist writes, I enjoyed this presentation of new information with story. Tim writes, many thanks to all who have contributed. Reverend Jeffrey says, greatest appreciation to Connie and Andrew. You are Levolution leaders. Ayada writes, what an extraordinary revelation from Patrick McCollum, that he is actually neighbors with the man who first found the UFO crash at Roswell. And now we know some of the missing pieces of that mystery and cover-up. Susan Seats, we always have many Susans in our audience. Susan Seats writes, loved it. It was done in an easy-to-understand, non-threatening kind of way. Question, are there negative ETs? So when we get to our panel discussion, I'll bring that question back up. Dwight Avery writes, until we know, we don't know. Our role is to help Noel. Very good. Missy Galore, one of our favorites. She writes, fantastic show, an important series. Thanks for bringing the importance of the butterfly needing to learn and earn strength. We all feel it. And the critical essence of being heart-centered and living in love and kindness. Ingrid writes from Newport, Oregon, the gray whales have been migrating past us here. I wonder if these grays are talking with those grays. I wouldn't be surprised about that. A little cetacean nation consciousness with the galactic family. People letting us know where they're coming in, what parts of the world. Chilecito, Gig Harbor, Washington. And definitely we want to make sure that people do remember that this is a fundraising event. And if you enjoyed what you saw, which I'm imagining I think all of you have, please do donate to Connie and Andrew's GoFundMe. This is just the first episode. They've been shooting footage all over the world with so many of our favorite luminaries. And look at what a great job they did with this, their first episode. So please, in the chat box, you'll see the GoFundMe. And for those of you who are watching online, go to GoFundMe and just put in support Connie and Andrew, and you can easily find it. And also the link is in the chat box. And let's all really be supportive. And I'm going to make a donation when I'm not busy yapping away here. But let's definitely support Connie and Andrew. I'm going to read a few more comments and then turn it over to Rita. And then we'll have our panel discussion. Natalie Hill writes, what a masterpiece. And this needs to be seen by the world. It truly is an inner discovery and connection with ourselves and others in the universe. Dorina Joy writes, this wonderful film just inspired this comic cartoon. And here, let me see if I can pull it up. All right, here's the cartoon that Dorina, it shows a certain current president of the United States. It says, make me the richest man on earth, give me the Nobel Peace Prize now, and make all countries confirm that I am the most powerful of all, and then I will confirm that you ETs are real. Yeah, probably. It's like a negotiating ploy. Comes to negotiate for his own benefit. Coming back to a much more positive focus, Anne Frances Ellis writes, you are opening a higher conversation, Andrew and Connie. This can help humanity move forward and upward. Missy Galore pointing out totally interdimensional whales. Sarah enjoyed the presentation. And just lots and lots of thank yous. Last one I'm going to read is from Ingrid Hardy. She writes wonderful segment. I cannot wait to see the entire series. It was very insightful and fun with the alien animation. I loved that. That was great, wasn't it? And so, who did that will be with us for our panel discussion. I always felt that we are going to connect with our space brothers and sisters. So there we go. And thank you, Scotty Satori. His aunt and uncle lived in Hillsborough. So there you go. I'm going to turn it over to Rita and maybe Andrew and Connie. Put you on as well. Is there anybody who wants to speak? Anybody from your audience there, Rita, who wants to share anything?
Anybody from the audience who would like to say something, come up to the computer. You can put your comments right here online. Don't be shy. Thank you. This is your opportunity to get your voice heard out in the world about what you thought of this film.
While we're waiting to see if anybody comes to speak from the live audience, just a reminder that we're about to have a panel conversation with Susan and Patrick McCollum and Leigh and Sophia. We're going to have a chance to actually talk with the people you saw on the show tonight. So if any of you have questions for them, I know there's the one question already about negative ETs, but if any of you have questions, do me a favor, send me a direct message. Don't put it in the group for everyone, but send it to Scott Catamas, and that way I can keep all the questions to ask our panel. And Rita, is there anybody that's wanting to speak on your group?
No takers yet.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring up Ingrid, our beloved Ingrid, who's part of our team here. She's got something.
Hi, guys. I am so excited. That first episode is awesome. And I am curious in the ways that we are finding ourselves walking the edges between worlds and that contacting. Like in the past, nobody wanted to be one of the tin hat people, but now we're all tin hat people going, wait a minute, no, that we're having these conversations regularly and coming out into the world and having these different realities that are colliding is likely to cause a lot of kerfluffling. And I'm curious if there are some suggestions and things that you've learned along your travels and the people that you've met with that have much more experience in meeting new tribes and making new relationships, and then also sharing that information with others in a way that doesn't cause fear, but really invites a sense of wonder and appreciation and trust in the ultimate unfolding that we are all safe and that this is all a good thing. So, like, what are your thoughts? And you're beautiful, Connie. There we go.
Well, I would just say it's a frequency thing. And people who've come into our lives are in the same frequency that we are, and that we have filmed and we have met with. And that's how I came into this frequency with Indigenous elders who came into my life here in the Roaring Fork Valley in the 90s. Because they were the visionary elders who saw the oneness of all humanity. And I saw that through them, that this was the true nature of the universe, the holographic nature of the universe that Leigh McCloskey was speaking about, that we're one with the plants and the rocks and the animals and the cosmos. So that's who we've been with over these years filming for this film series, because it's about catalyzing a new future, catalyzing the open heart so that people can move into that higher frequency and bring peace on earth and heaven on earth. You have something to say?
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Ingrid. It's two things. One is that it seems certain that for the last approximately 80 years, there's been a massive cover-up, a lot of information about visitations from various apparently extraterrestrial, alien, non-human intelligence people, beings visiting our planet. And there have been some crashes. There have been some very interesting incidents. They've shown off their powers, for example. Way back in the late 40s, early 50s, there was an aircraft carrier, the Nimitz. They came over the entire fleet that surrounded this aircraft carrier, and they shut everything down. They simply switched it off. And everything on all of those ships, all of those weapons, all those systems went down. They went and stayed down apparently for 10 or 15 minutes. And then the ships in the air disappeared and everything came back on. And it was like, just a little demonstration, folks. And there's a lot from that perspective. So there's a huge amount of information that is about to be released. It has been kept sequestered within 17 different governmental organizations, from the military to on and on. And a lot of it's gone to companies, private companies like Lockheed Martin, who are trying to reverse engineer these technologies. So there's a lot of that apparently about to emerge. The President of the United States, that guy, ordered that they be released quite some time ago. Nothing to my knowledge has been released. So it's really interesting because from the highest level of government, orders are handed down and nothing happens. So it's a very complex situation. Now, the other thing is that, there are many, many different kinds of beings. Some of them may indeed be malevolent. Apparently, I've heard that. I've never met, I've seen ships on 3 specific separate occasions. I've never yet knowingly met an alien, although there's probably some of them on this show.
Yes, let's have a chat with these folks.
All right.
I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you for all your support. And while we do that, I want to also acknowledge Chandra, who makes all things happen. She's in the background, our keeper of the Circle of One Fire. So a big thank you to Chandra for all that she does to support programs like this. And I'm going to bring up our panelists. And here, of course, is our beloved Patrick McCollum, who just gotten back from another trip to visit the Kogi people. So we definitely want to hear about that. And you also met this woman in the video, Susan, who it'll be really wonderful to have you with us. Thank you, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah.
And then there's wonderful videos that we saw with I Am SOPHIA.
Yes, Sophia. Hello, Sophia.
Hi, guys.
Thank you. That's
Hi,
outrageous.
Star Family.
I love it, Star Family.
And here's Leigh McCloskey.
And Leigh.
Who I think we caught just in the middle of a bite right there. Caught you.
Actually, yes, you did.
Leigh checking in from the hieroglyph of the human soul. Look, that's where he is.
And we just want to say hello to our blessed friends. We've known all of you for a decade now or so, and we're just blessed to have you come on board and share your wisdom with our Carbondale audience.
And so some of your questions are coming in. I'm going to start with a question for all 4 of you. And if you could try and keep your answers to 2 minutes or less, because a lot of questions are coming in. But this one I'd like to hear from all 4 of you. And that is, this is titled In Search of the Future. And we, especially with those of us that are part of the Global Peace Tribe, try to keep things inspirational. So the opening question is, why are you positive? Why do you have a positive vision for our future? And I think we'll start with I Am SOPHIA.
Hello, everybody. I love the first episode. I'm so excited for you guys to get this out there and that we're having these conversations. The way I am positive and know deep in my cellular being that there is hope for the future is because of the microcosmic reflection in my daily reality. I know that the macrocosm of social media can paint the other story, right? That it's doomsday, that we're self-destructing and humanity has no hope. But my interactions with fellow humans, with fellow star family in my community, wherever I travel, whoever I attract, I know you were talking about the trust frequency and you attract what you vibrate. I see it everywhere I look. I see it everywhere I am. And so that tells me, and that gives me the confirmation within my knowing that humanity is aligning with the timelines that are in our highest good. Do I think some humans are aligning with timelines that are not? Of course I do, but we live in a full spectrum reality. And so I am holding the vision that we are surpassing our ancestors and rising to a new state of Earth, to a new Earth. And I feel that deep, deep, deep in my soul.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Sophia. Let's hear from Susan.
Okay. Well, I'll keep this because that's really beautiful, what was just shared. So thank you so much. Honestly, for me, this is, I make a joke that no matter what happens in this world, and there, to us personally as well, I don't know anybody who's been on this journey trying to bring out these types of truths that has had an easy road, right? It's been a bit of a challenge. And of course, there's been also interference from, the powers that be that don't want the truth of what this is to really get out. So, we've been at this for a long time, and I've known Connie for 30 years. We said a decade or so. I'm like, how about like triple that, girl? So we've got like 3 decades here. I remember my incarnation. I actually remember coming from Source. And then I do remember coming to Earth and going into my mom's womb. And what I remember the most was how excited I was to come on behalf of the Creator to be of service. And that love and that ecstasy and that joy was something that I remembered, and I'm always grateful that that memory was intact, because it's not a memory of a cognition, it's a memory of a feeling connected to God, connected to Source. And I said to myself, I said, well, I don't think I would have that feeling if we don't do this and do it well. So that's always been my barometer, that no matter how silly, strange, unusual things look here, that we will get to that point. We will get to that cosmic party. We will get to that state of connection and love that we all know in our hearts, not only is possible, but when we do that with other people, man, what that feels like and what that looks like is just really incredible. So that's what gives me hope. It's like, I don't think I'd come to the planet if I didn't have, like, without that enthusiasm, if we don't do this. So that's what I'd like to share. Thank you, Scott.
Beautiful, Susan. How amazing to have the memory of coming into this reality. That's unique. Not too many people have that memory. That's beautiful. Here's Leigh McCloskey. We're catching him before he takes another bite. I'd love to hear your response to the question, Leigh. I just need you to unmute. Leigh, you're still muted.
God, and I was so brilliant. Why I'm optimistic is I'm sitting in the middle of it. That the permutation of my art and the hieroglyph of the human soul, my 17-year journey with the tarot, revisioned and revisiting the arcana, and realizing that my questions were about the theater of the psyche. Why are we wired the way we are? And if the story keeps repeating doom and gloom, and it's the end of time and every time, then maybe that's not the thing to pay attention to. And so I opened my home in 1981, and for the next 45 years, I've held weekly discussion groups in my home. I had 25 years of a theosophy study group here. And to balance that, because that's primarily Eastern esotericism, I had a Western inner traditions group here. But I also collected these books. And my father, who was a painter, said, when you can no longer talk about something painted. And my profession, my first love was being an actor and theater, and not the belief systems, but how do we embody? So experientially, I entered evil characters and I learned from them, which helped me a great deal with when I entered the tarot to not be a believer, not to be a metaphysical adept, but to enter it with a type of humility. I really don't know. In the same way, if you play King Lear, you wouldn't say, oh, I've got this. And I feel that part of the element here, and I think it's a missing key, is the key of place. I live and am the custodian of a sacred land that the Chumash honored and lived here. I'm the white guy on Indian land. What do you do with that? Well, you start to back up into this story of the hieroglyph of the human soul and this revelation that began on 9/11 2001 when the towers in New York came down. And I fell on my knees. And I said, these false erections of money and God have collapsed. What do I tell my children? What do I tell my daughters? What do I tell my wife? That being human matters, that it's noble, and no one gets out of it alive. So let's do something while we're here. And I started not with a conceit. No one would paint everything in a room. No one would spend 25 years every day in a grand meditation with people always circulating here, always coming. A lot of you have come to events here. And I feel this is the vital energy of attraction, of coherence, of the forgotten garden of the human soul, which, like a library, is not in any one time or book, but is the nature of all times and all books. And that's why the mother returns here, Sophia, the ancestors, the archetypes, because it returned to first technology. My passion, my dedication, my love of these ideas not to take, but like a beloved to become worthy of. And that's why this is my home. And that's why I'm so glad we're here tonight. Because I think the last key is intimate. I don't think it's a grand new philosophy or ideology. I think art is our greatest revelation. Because whether it's music or poetry or love, it's the stuff that allows us to dream. And then when we dream, we breathe. And when we come together like this, we breathe together. And in that ensemble, we become an attractive force. I wrote about this because all the books we've read over the years were initiating us. They were mentoring us. Because the last question would not be what's wrong with the neighbor or how do we save the earth, but how do we remain positive? Because we're not building that which is to change the world, but vessels that allow us to navigate the present moment, and in so doing, cultivate, I'm convinced, the art of being human, known as the human form divine. That's why I'm optimistic. Thanks for my sermon.
Leigh, what a wordsmith you are. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And you not only paint with art, but you paint with your words, clearly.
It comes from passion.
Let's hear from Patrick McCollum. Patrick, why are you optimistic about our future?
Well, first of all, because Leigh's my friend. So that helps a great deal. There's several different levels, but I'll talk about a couple of them. So one, I'm an international peacemaker, and I've been doing this work for about 55, almost 56 years. And I've had the opportunity to interact with about 40 different countries and people from there. And one of the things I've noticed as a peacemaker is 99.999% of the world, people all are wanting good, are all wanting to have a positive future. They're all hopeful that things will go well. And then there's this 1/10 of 1% who's trying to control everybody else and make the world a bad thing. And we all get kind of stuck in those situations. But a project that I'm working on right now is really profound for me. And that is that I am leading a project to assemble 100 indigenous prophecy carriers from across the world. So I'm bringing them from the highest mountains in Nepal, the South Pacific, Siberia, South America, United States and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the entire world. And what I've noticed different about them from what we all hear about the doom and gloom and all the bad stuff's going to happen is they all say in their prophecies that there would come a time that people would be really focusing on gloom and doom and all that stuff, but that there would be a definite opportunity and a road that we could take where we would, what they say, follow the original instructions, where humanity could come into not only a relationship with itself in a beautiful way, but with the people from the stars. And so we're going to be doing that this December in Bhutan, taking 100 prophecy carriers there, and they're going to share across the entire world their thoughts about this. And so between just seeing human beings and knowing most human beings are good and want peace and a beautiful world, and then hearing this wisdom from the ancient prophecy carriers whose wisdom has been shut down for all these centuries. The only prophecies and wisdom we hear are from people who say the whole world's going to go down and we're all going to kill each other and we're going to blow ourselves up and it's like the end of the world. So this is an entirely different story. And I'd like to close by saying this. I've come to believe that the world we live in is created by the story we choose to live in. It's all about the story, nothing else. And so we need to create a new story for humanity. And people like my friends here are helping to create that. And Andrew and Connie, you know, that's the focus of their entire thing, this thing of coming in the correct vibration where everybody's on the same page. And so I'm very optimistic and very hopeful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Patrick. And I'm going to keep Connie and Andrew up because we have a question for you. And this is from Dorina, our friend in Ecuador. She writes, in the best case scenario with your fundraising goal having been surpassed, how many episodes do you see creating? Where and how will they be shared with the wider public?
Well, once a month for the next 100 years. As I said in the introduction, in the live room here in Carbondale, with about 25 of our beloved friends showed up, and it was just great. The room was almost empty, and suddenly it was full. And it started out as some sort of artistic documentary. I wanted to weave a tapestry of positive dream, positive vision, Connie and I. And we started shooting this, and we have loved the process of filming so much that it's the last thing I would want to give up. So point being, this is, now that it's a series, it can end whenever the future does. We're in search of the future. When we find it and it's over, we'll stop shooting and maybe like retire when I'm 197, you know, something like that. I don't know.
So we're planning to have it screen once a month on the first Friday of every month, and have a discussion on the next Fridays of the rest of the month. So that's the answer to that. And I just wanted to answer your question about the positivity for the future. And for me, the Earth is shifting frequencies, and in the higher frequencies, there's more information. And so we're accessing more information, which is that we are one. We were in a lower frequency. The whole Earth was in a lower frequency of separation and fear and scarcity. And now it's moving into a higher frequency, and it's pulling us forth into this higher frequency where we're seeing that we are one. If you heard it on so many people's lips, you know, we are one, this illusion of separation, that wasn't spoken about 10 years ago. It's on our lips now because we're getting into that knowing that we are one, and there's more abundance than we can fathom in this higher frequency. So there's no one to fight with, nothing to fight over. So peace on earth becomes a given. The laws are expanded. It's a completely different reality in the higher frequency. So this is all part of the process of getting into that frequency. So we have to trust the process.
Fantastic. So a reminder, everybody, we want to support them so that they can be releasing a new episode every month. And please go to their GoFundMe, We're putting it in the chat box. Anybody else, you could also just go to GoFundMe and put in support Connie and Andrew's film fund. And I want to remind you a little something. When you make your donation, I'm going to donate 88 because that's 8 is the symbol of abundance. You do not have to tip GoFundMe at all, actually, if you don't want to. No, we appreciate GoFundMe, but if you don't do this, they'll automatically put in a 16% tip. But if you just scroll down and you remove this, just take that little thing down and that takes it down. Now you can add a tip if you want to, but that's how you can go down, because I personally want for all the money I'm donating to go to Connie and Andrew. So just a little bit of tip there. And we're going to go to our panel again. There was a question, are there negative ETs? Are there negative ETs? And so would anybody like to tackle that question? Well, if nobody wants to, I will, because I have been in this field for a pretty long time. And I would say that there are absolutely, from a lot of the sources that I've worked with for decades, there are some ET races that treat humans the same way that our scientists treat laboratory animals. Most of us love dogs and cats and rats and little furry critters, but there are human beings that are scientists that in the name of progress will do pretty horrible things to lab rats or even other species of animals in order to make progress and to learn. So yes, there are, there's that. Then if you want to go really, really dark, and I'm not going to go down this road too far, but there are a lot of credible people. I was just watching last night the Farsight Institute and what they're sharing about the reptilian races and some of the reptilian races that do some pretty funky things with human beings. So, of course, it's all what you choose to believe and what information you choose to gather. But I would say that there are personally, bring on the Pleiadians, right? But from what I've heard and seen, and certainly people I've spoken to have had negative alien abductions, there are some dark races as well. Do any of our presenters want to? Yes, Susan, I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, so I mean, from my own experience, I don't have negative encounters with extraterrestrial beings. The only negative encounters that I had around this topic was interference from, I guess we call it deep state military. So that would be that, to share that. But I did participate in research with the Beyond UFOs, the Science of Consciousness and Contact that was published in 2018. And we looked at about almost 5,000 contactees from all around the world, and we asked them about the nature of their contact. And 85% of them said that the contact was either neutral or benevolent. And so, it's a smaller percentage, looking at about 10-15% that said that their contact was, they wouldn't want it to happen again because of, something that occurred with them. So, when you look at that large number of people who got a tremendous amount of information, by the way, that is one of the best resources that I'd say has some pure information in it. Like I said, it was published in 2018. There was about 10 PhD researchers and myself that came up with this research and analyzed the results on this one. And the revelation was that most people, because of contact, they learned to not have as much materialism in their lives. They didn't fear death. They were here to help raise vibration, to feel a sense of love, understand that the universe is a living system as well, understand that the earth also needs healing. So the level of awareness because of contact was such a profound, almost akin to a near-death experience that someone has. So there was a much smaller percentage, again, you're looking at 10-15%, that said that their contact wasn't something that they wanted to have happen again because of something that was negative. So And again, we didn't follow up with these people, but it'd be really interesting to see where we're at now if those people still felt, similar. So I think that may be helpful, to people that are learning about this for the first time. And again, because there's so much information now that's coming out in mainstream media, again, this fear narrative that's there, which is extremely different than what most of us are saying, if not all of us are saying on this panel here today. That yes, there's some experiences which may not be so lovely. And however, when you look at this entire arena, there's far more good, benevolent than there is negative. And hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. Thank you very much. Patrick has something to say.
Yeah, so I just wanted to respond to that I've talked to a few people who, had experiences who saw it as being negative. And my assessment of them really was that it was just a frightening experience for them. And I just try to think of the average person, walking in the woods and all of a sudden a spaceship or something, comes there. People are basically fearful, especially certain groups of people. Like I have neighbors in the wilderness area that are very afraid of their neighbors because they have certain beliefs and they don't want to talk to their neighbors because they might not go to heaven or something like that. And so I think that a lot of the people that have negative experiences, or at least think of them that way, are really just frightened about the experience altogether. And I wanted to share one more thing that's not in the movie, but I think is an important thing. And that is on my driveway where I said that these first aliens crashed, 8 miles farther down my 30-mile long driveway is a cave that's been dated about 11,500 years ago. And inside it has a cave drawing, and the cave drawing is 3 spaceships in the sky, an alien being coming down to meet indigenous people who are going up a stairway and reaching out to them. And on top of that big butte where the cave is a giant rock formation, like a 1/4 mile in diameter, that's a big circle with like an X, like land here. And so I just think that there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and when they start bringing all these things together in our government, there'll be a lot to try to understand. And the last thing I wanted to say, which a lot of people don't know, is the area where the aliens for the Roswell thing first crashed is where they discovered the very first uranium. They made the atomic bomb for the Manhattan Project. And I wonder also if there's a connection of that. For some reason, whoever's out there was either looking to that or trying to follow what was happening as humans were looking at that energy or power. So that's all I had to say.
We've never had this conversation before, Patrick, even though we've known each other for a long time. When I was producing television on UFO topics, I was in charge of all the UFO stories for the Paranormal Borderline, and then went on to become supervising producer on a show called Strange Universe. And it took me 2 years, but I got a man named Frank Kaufman to share his story. Frank was the head of the CDC, which was the forerunner to the CIA, stationed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. And very briefly, Roswell was where the very first and only atomic bomb squadron was. It was the 509th Squadron, and it was the only one that had atomic weapons. And we have to remember, it's only 2 years after World War II. The Cold War was ramping up. We had atomic bombs, and of course, the Russians really wanted them as well. So Frank was stationed in Roswell. His job was to ferret out Soviet spies. When the crash happened, they thought initially it was a Soviet spy plane that had gone down. So Frank went out, and he was among the first people there, saw the downed crash, but of course could not say anything about it for decades, because back then, people who knew too much, if they spoke up, they were silenced one way or the other. But Frank, by the 1990s, was dying of cancer. And after watching my programs and me corresponding for 2 years with him, he agreed to come on the show, Strange Universe, and tell his story. So someday we'll have to compare notes even more thoroughly. But there is no doubt. And what we do know is that the craft was actually taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. As you said, one of the aliens did survive, although he later passed on. Our beloved Andrew and Connie have their hand up, so I'm going to go over to them.
So I just wanted to say on the subject of the negative aspect that, again, it's a frequency thing. So I'm just saying to folks, keep your vibration high, keep your attention and focus on the high frequency, on the high vibration, on what's in your heart, trust your heart, and just keep that vibration high. And that's what they're waiting for. These heart-centered ETs are waiting for us to open our hearts and get into that frequency so that we can work together for the betterment of all of creation. So,
Connie, the heart, I think this is key, because essentially the point being that what we're discovering is that we live in a thought form. As Einstein said, reality is a thought form, or a thought slowed down to a rate where we can perceive it. And this helps us understand, because one of the problems we have is we live in a scientific and religious overlord. In other words, a type of literalism, a set of facts and data that if you believe this, you will have the structure of reality well in hand. But we find the third element is actually neither. And this is where the arts come in, the resolution, the alchemy, that, as Connie's saying, that we live in energetic fields, in sentience. And we have been taught as human beings that, oh no, it's just objective. But any dancer, singer, performer knows that you are lifted by an energy as you cross a threshold and begin to engage energy. You feel them directly. And because I have been so immersed in the deep unconscious since I was very young, I've realized that the point is that, as Connie's saying, it's not over-identification. Part of my work was to build an ark, not to navigate physical waters, but mental waters. That the footprint of who we are as human is being forgotten. And what I realized is that we are the technology, and that the challenges that come to us, and I found this when I had a lot of out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams, that the more I allowed something to create fear in me, the more real it became, and the more fixed it seemed to be. It challenged me continually to drop my energy, and this is why a lot of my work is a mental martial art. In other words, what are we actually perceiving? And in ancient texts, there's always that saying, become a knower of the real. And what does that mean? You must center yourself, not project it outward, because if you are fearful, you will amplify the fear. It's finding that sense of how am I able to finally hold not just the frequency, but the realization, what Connie's talking about, the harmonics of consciousness. And I use the description here. We can see we're surrounded by books and paintings and universes, but they're all in a coherent state. None are in opposition or angry at one another. They're holding place. And this is part of the maturing aspect we're going through. Can we hold place? Can we become the center by which the holographic universe finally finds an interface through the human being that realizes that what saves us is our capacity to tell the story, as Patrick said. And the story is saying, if it's true, it must include all of us. And that's why I feel this sense of that where there's dark, yes. It's like you've got Hades and you've got the heavens, always. And it's like the piano, the archetypes. You don't extinguish a set of keys. You realize that it's an instrument. So the question becomes, how do I play it? And I really do feel this is where it becomes very helpful to move away from good and bad beings. And, what is it? There's neither good nor bad, but thinking make it so.
Thank you, Leigh. Thank you. We're going to hear from Sophia for a little bit. And I've got actually a question from Missy Galore. I don't know if you know Missy, but you two are of a very similar vibration. You're both magnificent. And she writes, in some ways, contact feels very kinesthetic. Do you have any special prep that you do to connect for contact and to discern the feedback that you receive? And then finally, what is your favorite way to encourage and sustain heartful living Levolution? And that seems like a good question for you, Sophia.
I love that question. Did she say Levolution? What a great word.
Yeah, we've got the king of Levolution with us tonight, Reverend Jeffrey Goldbrook.
So the first part of that question, if I am remembering clearly, was around how to get yourself into a place of making contact. Was that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So my story is kind of all over the place. My first contact experience started not intentionally. I had contact with these beings known as the Arcturians. And through the last 10 years, they've taught me how to connect with them through meditation and astral projection. And so I would say the best, most direct way that you can connect with these beings is by creating your inner world, is by connecting and tuning in with your inner world, because this is how they can reach you. The heart truly is the portal. And so quieting your mind and getting rid of the monkey mind and the chach and getting to a 0 point where you can recalibrate your energy with the quantum, Akashic record, with the quantum field. It's easier for us to increase our vibrations through meditation, through breath, through loving, through the heart. So we can meet them in these middle zones rather than them dematerializing their high vibrational energy into the third dimensional realm. So if you are really wanting to make contact, I would say the first step would be to find that practice within yourself, with meditation, with breath work, with quieting your mind so that you can enter your heart. And when you get into that space and you start doing it as a practice, you're much more likely to start having these glimpses of experiences with them. And a key thing is that we have the contract of free will here on Earth. And so whether it's a malevolent or a benevolent being, they have to be invited into your field. So if you're wanting to connect with the benevolent beings, it's important to, as you're going into that place and you're developing your inner world and your inner practice to connect with them, to call upon them, to invite them, and making sure you're calling upon the malevolent energies and the graces of God and the angelic realm, because that's how I view extraterrestrials. They are angels. And so in order for you to connect with the angelic heavenly realms that they're in is by opening that heart chakra portal and getting out of your mental ego mind if you can. So just that daily practice. And I also found inviting them into my dreams before I go to sleep, the very last thing I say is I call in my guides. I welcome them to make contact with me in the astral realm, in the notion that I am completely protected in my Merkaba. And 9 times out of 10, when I wake up the next morning, I remember a very lucid experience with them. So the dream realm is also a very potent place to connect with them. And there was a second part of that question. And can you remind me what it was, Scott?
Yes. What's your favorite way to encourage and sustain heartful living Levolution?
I love this question. I would say for me, in my personal reality, grounding into the vibrational awareness that everything that is around us is what we are emanating. And so, how I can show up in the world and encourage others to show up in the world is by tuning in again to the heart chakra frequency, to the portal that we have here. The heart is ultimately going to be what activates us into these brighter futures, right? Because we have fear and we have love, and those are the 2 superpowers that we're up against right now. And so the more that you can align with the love, and love doesn't mean sunshine and roses all the time. Sometimes love is full spectrum and it's heavy and it's difficult and it's challenging, but staying anchored into that love no matter what and not letting the fear control your vibrational being, I think is the most direct way that humanity is going to cause this Levolution, is by really anchoring and staying true and devoted to the heart and the heart portal.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophia. Right along those, what you just said, I'm going to read something from a fellow named Stone Hobbit. He writes, at first I was unaware of what I as I was experiencing fear, and it reminds us that fear can be seen as an acronym for false evidence appearing real. Then it changed, and I became willing to experience. And then, and in the now, is communication and connection. So thank you for that.
Can I say something real quick about
Yeah,
the
of
negative
course.
beings and fear?
Yeah.
When I went through my phase where I was really trying to learn from the Arcturians around, like, why are there malevolent beings and what are they interested with humanity? And what they communicated to me is that a lot of the abduction experiences that people have that you spoke of is as you have said on this panel, is the situation itself that caused fear for them. And I just want to share the symbolism. They said, think about it in terms of bringing your dog or your cat to the vet, right? To them, they're being experimented on, they're being prodded, they're getting shots, they're getting their nails clipped. It's terrorizing for them. My dog hates it when I go to the vet. He hates it there, but it's for his highest good. I'm taking care of him. And so a lot of these beings as well, like some of them don't have good intention, but some of them who are experimenting on us actually do have good intention. We're just experiencing it from an unfamiliar place. And so it seems scary and it seems evil, but it's actually not.
That's a great point. We've had Whitley Strieber on the Awakening World show several times. And of course, Whitley probably is the most famous abductee. And when he first wrote Communion, it was kind of a horror book almost. But Whitley's whole evolution has been coming around from exactly what you just shared, realizing that it actually was all about his awakening of consciousness. And so that's a really important point of view. I'm going to bring up our other panelists. And this is a question which any of you that want to respond to. There seem to be two different schools of thought about our future. Well, many schools of thought, but one is that we're entering what some people call the bifurcation, that there's going to be some sort of a splitting of worlds. Now, we do know through quantum physics that everything exists to the degree with which it's imagined, and that there are multiple timelines. So there's the multiple timeline bifurcation vision for the future, that some people are going to kind of ascend to rainbows and unicorns, and others are going to stay in different vibratory levels of planet Earth. Others take the more bodhisattva approach that we all have to grow and evolve together. So curious if any of you have a perception about the future, since again, we're talking about in search of the future. Do you perceive we are heading towards a bifurcation, or is the bifurcation constantly happening? Or do you believe that all of humanity needs to move into one new world together?
The bifurcation is within oneself. The world is whole. The state is holy. One's dissonance creates resistance. It becomes fascinating to think about the time we're in being truly a time of cumulative wisdom and revelation. That's why where I'm sitting is a painted cave on ancestral land, meaning that it returns us to the truth that nothing has changed in terms of the tools. It has always been a process, an alchemy, a cultivation of why is being human so difficult? And what is the point? The question Job asked, essentially, and answered with, I will still love you in spite of everything. And to me, that is the human spirit. I will still love you in spite of everything. This is what the walls shout here. The library shouts, the passion beyond life and death shouts. What do you think you're part of? A noble, remarkable evolution of consciousness itself, the capacity to hold unique identity and shared reality, and at the end of the day to realize that any blossom has to do not with one petal standing alone, but an opening of each to one another, as we do in this room, as we do in the tarot wheel with the archetypes, where they turn and look at each other, as we do with the mandala that we see here that comes from the Phoenix Arise painting above there. So art, creation, breath, passion, dedication, humanity is telling us that the last key is returning home, a bit like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She went to Oz and she saw color and munchkins and wow. What was the first thing she wanted? I want NEM. I don't care if it's black and white. I don't care if it's difficult. I want to be with the people I love. And that's why I have such respect for the nobility of who we are, because we were never given a handbook, never given any clues. And I feel all of the orbs, all of these things like crop circles, like this room, like the Watcher language within which this has been woven. It's not to answer a story any more than love answers a question. It resets the value of the question itself. What do you love? Not what do you hate? What are you against? And that's why when this painting of mine, Phoenix Arise, reveals in a fractal mathematical geometrical message, because it'll say the same thing in 10,000 years, because it's a fixed message that you are a phoenix, not born into time, but into creation, that you are whole and holy, that you are holographic, and that you are the outcome of this entire journey, which is why your DNA reveals that code to you, that it was not to escape the condition, but as we see from the phoenix, but to endure the condition in the same way a flower does. And it would reach a point where we were holding on so tight because we had withstood the future so strongly by being so internalized. And with this losing our grip, well, actually, it started here 45 years ago with just linoleum in an empty room. And it said, we must cultivate like gardeners. We must be those that cultivate place, not complaint. If we want to be custodians of who and what we are, then we must be grateful librarians of the story we contain. And so that's why I'm optimistic, because it's not about a future with more cyborgian, Muskian cyborgs. It's going to be when we realize that our divine technology awakens because of the questions we ask. And I use this art as proof now, because it is multidimensional, it is beauty, and when you enter it, it holds you and it doesn't judge you. It says, welcome home. And for me, the story needs to be beautiful and human and intimate and passionate, and to include my family and to include all of us. Otherwise, it's a lousy story, and I won't import any lousy stories anymore. That's when I quit on 9/11/2001. I'm not following that narrative. And that's when the artists joined me and said, neither would we. And guess what? You're an artist of consciousness. Everyone watching. That's why we're watching. It's not to shout. It's to whisper the truth. And those that attend remember. And those that don't never do. But that's their story, not ours. And to my that's how I feel. Why I'm optimistic. You can tell I'm passionate.
Boom. Beautiful. Thank you, Leigh. Thank you. Wow. Well, fortunately, we have Patrick McCollum, who might be the only person who could possibly follow that up. Take it away, Patrick.
I've known Leigh for a long time. You can never follow him up. So, you just can present. So first of all, I agree with pretty much everything he said. From a practical point of view, and in the work that I do, and in particular in working with the indigenous peoples for a very long time and their view of where we're headed, they do believe there's a bifurcation of what is coming, but not in the way that you would look in that, some of us are going to ascend to another reality and the other people are going to remain earthly or something like that. Their perspective is much more practical and very, just earthly, basically. And what it says is that human beings will come to understand the original instructions. And those that do will find or create a future that will be, a beautiful thing. Not beautiful in that they'll turn into light beings and, go into outer space or something like that, but that they, within the world we live in right now, will have a beautiful world where everything kind of works. And so I've asked them many times, what are the original instructions that they're talking about? And they say that nature is a guidebook created by the divine that has all the answers. And that the basics of the original instructions are that recognize that diversity itself is sacred. One of the very first questions asked with indigenous people was, look around you and point to any two flowers that are the same, any two trees, any two deer, any two rabbits, and any two human beings. You know, it might be that you and I, Scott, and Andrew all look like guys or something somehow, but we're nothing like one another. And one of the downsides Indigenous people say about current society and the way we move is we're all trying to make everyone into the same. Like, you know, and they believe that we've mixed up to all become one with the idea of we all need to be one, like the same person. You know, it's like, you know, everybody uses this hook to try to bring in, hey, you know, if you're just Catholic, it's all going to be okay. Or if you're just, you know, somebody who believes this or that, it's going to be all okay. What they say is it's all okay to start with. Everything is sacred. There's nothing to be like, you know, tweaked to get to be to the sacred. We simply need to acknowledge it in every step we take, and then recognize, as I said, that diversity is sacred, which they believe will stop all the problems between human beings. And the last one is, they say that the story that we live in is not the true story. If in the movie that you saw about me, you saw some of the Kogi elders, and I was sharing that we live in one story and they live in a different story. And the story they live in, I just went up there and visited them, you know, and these tribes have been there for 9,000 years. And I asked them, you know, what do you do about crime? And they said, we don't allow it. And I said, well, what about domestic violence? We have never had it. What about war? It's not appropriate. We have never allowed it. And so I just think that we need to change our perspective of what it is we think is possible and what we want, and then head towards that. And I do think in the answer to this bifurcated thing, it isn't that everybody that goes the way that isn't the beautiful way are all going to be destroyed and killed and stuff. But definitely, if you just look at the world, are headed away where a lot of people are going to get hurt, destroyed, taken down by other people. And it's happening right now. And so, you know, we need to get a handle on that and move to a place where we just learn to love one another and love the sacredness of where we are and where we've been put, which doesn't only include planet Earth. It includes everything, right? Anyway, so much for that. Not so eloquent as my friend Leigh, but that's kind of what I think.
Doing just fine with that, doing just fine. All right, we're going to read some comments from our online audience, and then we're going to go to Rita has one of her guests who has something they want to share. But I want to read some of the comments that have come in from our online audience. Dr. Carol Sue Glazebrook points out a wonderful podcast by Joseph Anchery explaining the plans of the Galactic Elohim and what originally came through Alan Michael. And it's heralding a new world of absolute freedom, security, and abundance. Missy Galore points out Travis Walton having a very similar story to what we heard earlier. Our wonderful Reverend Jeffrey Colbrook, who is the Mr. Levolution, writes, in the world of understanding the nature of reality, one of the greatest mysteries in science is why the constants are what they are and how are they related. And Robert E. Grant has just solved this mystery using a geometric solution confirming Nassim Harame's work. And there's a link in there that people can go to. Susan Bloomquist writes, it is well to remember that non-human intelligence are also part of the animal kingdom. So one can practice trying to connect to animals and other types of intelligent beings right here. That's a great idea, Susan. I like that. Ingrid Hardy and Ayada are both really appreciating your expressions, Leigh. So thank you for that. Plan Mother Karen Ann Lucy K. McDonald writes, it is called The Great Migration. I will share part of our matriarch books, Mr. Meredith Quinn on Star Nation tribal laws. There's a wonderful link there, all about the upcoming pole shift, Time Walkers, Bear Clan, and more. So thank you very much. And Ms. Stone Hobbit, I now know that you're of female gendered, says yes, the true Garden of Eden. Nadalee with a D writes, we are the painter and the painting. And finally, the Garden of Eden is not about the past, it's about our future. Yes, Jeffrey, I like that. All right, we're going to go to one of Rita's people right here. So here we go. Hello.
Hello there. Thank you. I'm just so blessed to be here with you all. My name is Joni Clark. I'm a dear, dear friend and soulmate of Andre and Connie and Andrew for 50 years in the Aspen Valley. And I just, this is so perfect, but I had no idea that I would be able to talk to Patrick. I have a show in Aspen called The Soul of Aspen. And I just had his producing partner, Gabe Polson, as my guest in Aspen on his film, which is marvelous and incredible and incredible. And now here you are in living color. So it's such an honor to meet you. And we did a wonderful show called The Soul of Aspen. It can be part of all of this. It was a great interview with Gabe. And it was the first of whatever is needed next. I just, and I have worked with Phil Lane Jr. for 30 years. So watching him involve this, it was just such a great heart space, and have been part of films making on the prophecies from the Hopis that we took to the UN years ago. So I'm in this space with all of you, and it's just delightful, and I'm just so honored and excited about all the freedom of our love that is being understood and expressed and not feared. So this is perfect. And however I can do it, help further, sign me up.
Well, I'd just like to say it's an honor to meet you. And Gabe shared with me about, being there and going through, having interview and stuff. And so, you have a big star in my book of people. So, well, I'm going to be heading to Aspen and Carbondale and all that, in the not too far future. So maybe we can connect.
Perfect. Just
beautiful.
Heaven on earth right here. Thank you.
Thank you. And remember, one way you can support is help fund the GoFundMe and pass the GoFundMe on to your other friends and fans and people that you know. And speaking of the GoFundMe, Connie and Andrew have their hand up. And so the camera is on you with whatever you want to share.
Well, I just wanted to share about what we were speaking of as far as the bifurcation of the earth, etc. There's a lot of talk of two earths happening. And it to me, it's a frequency thing again, that the different frequencies are splitting so that they're not interacting with each other anymore. So people in one frequency aren't seeing people in another frequency. So it can be that the dimensions are in fact splitting so that people who choose a higher frequency just aren't going to be involved with any of what's going on in the lower frequencies. And people who choose the lower frequency get to do all that in their reality. So there's something going on with the whole split of frequencies of Earths. Who knows what it's going to result in. And the other thing I just wanted to say was with Joni Clark, she and we are old friends of Sally Ann Ranni's, who went to Columbia with Patrick and Jim Garrison and Tom Eddington just a short time ago. And she lives here in Carbondale, Colorado. And so it's just another example of synchronicities of us all coming together who are in a certain frequency.
And having Patrick and Leigh together, we've known Leigh for a long time, and we've known Patrick for quite some time now as well. And we did not know that they knew each other. So this is just sort of a coming.
We all know each other. That's the key.
Yeah, it really is true. We haven't heard from Susan for a little bit. So Susan, what would you like to share?
Thank you. Well, speaking of synchronicity, Patrick, you were talking about an event that's happening in Bhutan in December, bringing together Indigenous people. There is an event that I am a part of and helping to put together in Interlaken, Switzerland, with the Earthrise Collective, and that's with Rico Paganini. There's going to be 100+ Indigenous people coming from around the world in September, right around fall equinox. And we have an event with the Interstellar Community Foundation that we are putting on as well. So I did talk to Jim a little bit about that. And I do think it's important that we at least consider a sync of effort, so to speak, because they're so similarly aligned. I'm not sure if your event is on solstice, but ours is right around equinox. So just fascinating, just hearing what you're saying on that. And I do want to speak a little bit about the bifurcation because it's something that I did see in visions that I had as a kid. I think a lot of us that had contact, when we were younger, we've had a lot of visions about what's potential for, planet Earth and what may go on. And, like any good Earth steward here, you don't have an attachment to these visions. You just merely understand that they're there as a possibility for a potential future, so to speak. And one of the things that I did see is that I would say to Connie's point, and Patrick, I think you alluded to this a bit as well. What I did see is there's different densities that people are operating on, and for those that have a bit of a more dense existence, because of that compression. We talk about fear. What are we really talking about? It's a compression. That oxygen isn't there, so to speak, moving through the heart, moving through the mind, that connection with the field as well. And so that density seems to play itself out in a number of different ways that aren't so lovely. And yet that higher vibration, well, there's more oxygen, there's more connection, there's more rapid quantum positive connection as well. And so that is one of the things that I did see play out. And again, I don't have an attachment to it, but that being a possibility. And this is, I think some of us here, we have different connections. Yes, I relate a lot to the Pleiadians. That seems to be something that I relate to. And of course, some of the creator beings. But the reason why I'm sharing that is my to-do here on Earth really strongly is about the connection to the Earth and the connection to the Earth and our sun as it relates to these planetary changes. People talk about solar flares, and the different energies that are here. And what I try to teach people to do is to have that attunement with the Earth. It's almost like, we're riding a surfboard. If anybody's ever surfed out there, you're surfing these waves, and you can get taken down by the wave, or you can actually learn how to ride it and stay above, and have a great ride with it. And I do think that speaking about the bifurcation, that we have the sun that's acting as this great impetus with the Earth as well. Of course, as it's connected in the interstellar medium, I bring that up because it's such an, we think about the future, obviously, but then there's the immediate here and now that's happening on a dynamic process, on a minute by minute, second by second basis. And our Earth is so reactive right now. And human beings, we are waking up. People are waking up. These energies are such a great awakening. And I just wanted to share that, with everybody on here. And I always think that this is funny that we talk about alien, right? Like it's some foreign entity. Anything with my contact experiences, and I'm sure so many people can attest to this. It's made us more human than alien. It's made us more relatable to one another than different. And it's a great connector. So thank you for allowing me a couple of minutes there, Scott. I appreciate that. And I think it is what we choose. Everyone has been saying that. And minute by minute, we have the opportunity to choose something that is much more beneficial for ourselves and our children.
Beautifully stated.
And also, one of the keys in a word is metamorphosis. that the state we are in the same way as everything in this environment, in the art, in the expression, is that what was happening is we were being triggered. And if we think from an alchemical proposition, it's not for or against any. It's really navigating these energies because they are triggering adaptation, enforcing that one cannot simply choose good or bad, right or wrong, because in that we begin to integrate the field. And that's why I think it's really important, Susan said, this relationship to Gaia and Earth, the one, the entity, the being that we all are. Because this story then does become, in metamorphosis, the season of blossoming. And if we think about a blossom, that the flower itself doesn't destroy its own infrastructure, it shifts how it uses its own energies. And I feel that this is the metamorphic pulse going on, because the overwhelm, the last flood was water, this flood is information, I was told, and that's what began all of this. So much of this is to honor the sense that it's not in the optics, it's not in the seeming chaos of good and bad, evil and wicked. Those are all archetypes. They're all symptomatic. One is not real and another false. They're a type of feedback system. When this is understood, we become much more capable of navigating the illusion we have been taught to call reality, because going back to what Connie said, reality is love with a capital L. And that sees it through illusion, but it also sees the responsibility that one is not alone. One is responsible to the story they share. That's it.
Beautiful, Leigh. Thank you. I'm going to go to Sophia. We haven't heard from you for a little bit. And something I was wondering, Sophia, this is my introduction to you. And I loved your videos. I thought they were fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, our wonderful mind, Albert Einstein, talked a lot about imagination. And it seems to me that your videos were a beautiful example of you imagining conversations with our galactic family. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your imaginings and your experiences with our galactic family.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. These definitely are imaginative creations pulled from my experiences. I obviously haven't had these exact conversations because a lot of these videos are kind of goofy, but there's intention with that. I'm on a mission, you know, as we all are on this call, to dispel the fear around our extraterrestrial family. And so by making these, you know, quick little goofy, lighthearted videos, I'm hoping that it's shifting people's presentation of their relationship with this idea of an alien, because our mainstream movies are Predator and Doomsday and End of the World, and you know, and so I think giving these comedic videos allows people to view aliens a little bit more playfully, a little bit more humorously and lightheartedly. And so with my experiences with the Arcturians, it's been a journey, because I would say the first 5 years of connecting with them, I actually fell into a very deep depression and became suicidal at one point because I longed for my star family so much. But what they helped teach me, and that I'm very passionate about relaying, is that this human experience is a gift. Our human emotions are a gift. The sadness, the heaviness, the density, it's all part of this school. It's all part of this experience. So my relationship with them and of being human has shifted so much in the last few years around realizing that this human experience is not a prison sentence. This human experience is such a gift. We all chose to come here at this time. And these beautiful, benevolent beings that I've had the privilege of communing with and connecting with have allowed me to feel so grateful for this human vessel and this human body and this human experience. And so every time I've been down or feeling like I'm hopeless for humanity, and I tune in and I get that light communion with them because they're so light based. They're so it's what I imagine a lot of people experience on drugs is what it feels like, when you encounter these beings that are so loving and so high vibrational. It's this all encompassing feeling of love in your body. And so that's to say that I'm trying to relay those experiences and the contact information I've received from them into my music and into these videos in a way that is easier digested by someone who might not initially believe in aliens or might think that they are evil or here to kill humanity. It's a way that I can just lightly give them a different perspective of this family that we have that loves us so much. So I don't know if I even answered your question, but I'm very passionate about bringing humor and levity and lightheartedness. And it's been such a journey too, because when I first started releasing this music and these videos, I got so much hate, so many people that thought I was crazy, thought I needed to be institutionalized. And now after not giving up and continuing to, shine my crazy freak colors that I'm so proud of, they now have a more loving relationship with aliens. And I've watched fans go from hating me and wanting to burn me at the stake to suddenly being curious about extraterrestrials and how they can find their star family and how we can receive them with love. And so, yeah, that's one of my biggest passions in this life is teaching people and showing, especially the younger generations, that these beings are not to be feared. These beings are pure love. I mean, a lot of them, not all of them, but so yes, so I put them in these comedy videos and these little musical clips to just give people a spark, just a little spark of awakening, and if they resonate with it, great, and if they don't, keep scrolling. I'm not here to be anybody's religion.
I think you're awesome.
Thank you. I think everyone on this call is awesome.
Well, and speaking of awesome, let's hear from Connie and Andrew.
Okay, there we are. Well, firstly, Sophia, I absolutely love what you brought to the film. When we first came up with the idea of putting your clips in there, and I hadn't seen them, and you have made me laugh 10 to 20 times every day for the last 3 weeks.
Yay! That's the goal. That's the goal. Laughter opens up the heart.
The laughter's there. Your alien is so cute for such an ugly little sucker. He's so adorable, which is very interesting that you can't help loving this rather, repellent creature when you first meet him. I mean, who's his dentist, for example,
Right.
And just to catch up with you and this work you've been doing, because your folks have been playing us this stuff from time to time. We'll go spend time with them in Boulder, and now they're living out there with you. You need to get with Scott. Scott is listening to this, and come on our beautiful Wednesday and Saturday night shows. Scott, we've been trying to do this for a while, and here's the introduction. You two have now met.
Yes, please, let's exchange contact information, and I would love to have you on the Awakening World. And actually,
and I want to say quick to Andrew and Connie, I have endless amount of alien videos for you. So keep these episodes coming.
Yeah, right. Good. So speaking of episodes, Scott.
Hang on one second, Andrew. I just want to, Sophia, there's some comments I want to read to her from the audience.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
People are asking for any links you might have where people can watch your videos or learn more about you. Ayada writes, Sophia, I love what you just shared about learning from the Arcturians, that all of our emotions are a gift. Aho. Ingrid Hardy writes, Sophia, so grateful for your bubbly spark and that you are shining your light. And then Circle of One Fires put your bio in for everybody. But, and I guess that's your best website, IamSophiamusic.com. Is that the best place for people to go?
So that's my website if they want to just see what I've done. But if they want to keep up with the videos that I make and the music that I make, social media is the best platform for that. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can find me anywhere. I am Sophia Music. And you'll see me with some UFOs and some aliens, and you'll know it's me. I'll put it in the chat.
Put in the chat. Thanks, Sophia. All right, take it away, Connie and Andrew.
Well, I just wanted to address the many beloved friends. Ingrid Hardy, hello, darling. We're going to be seeing you in Sedona shortly. The list goes on. There, I went through the who's out there, and the ones I could even see, whose names, and it's just beautiful to know who has showed up for this. Like, Arthur Kanigas, hi. Francis Ann Ellis, hello there. On and on. Maybe my brother Stephen.
It might not be you yet. Hi, Andrew
Don't
and
mute.
Connie.
Don't mute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
I just wanted to make that personal word of gratitude. Thank you for showing up, and it's great to know that you're there. I wanted to mention, bring it all the way back around to the beginning of this, where I mentioned that this is a series that has emerged from a filming project that Connie and I have been engaged in for about 2.5 years. And there's probably over 270 of these beautiful messages so far, and we're not going to stop. It's just such a treat and such a delight doing it. So this is an ongoing venture, an adventure. And this is, in a way, a debut, a premiere. I love the fact that it's obvious to me. This is the second time we've done this in this room here, the Callaway room in Carbondale, with Rita. And this one, the audience is massively more than it was. The first one was remarkable. We were blown away. And this time it's much more. And here's the question I'd love some feedback on. If we can come up, and we can, it's just calls for me to edit a brand new piece every month. Let's just say that every first Friday, we have one of these events with a brand new, possibly a theme. I don't know if we can really get thematic with it. I mean, we can do near-death experiences. There are many themes that we probably could extract. And is that a good idea, or should it be more diverse? I don't know that yet. But the idea is that we do what we did tonight. This, to me, thank everybody, the panelists, everybody who showed up, everybody who was in the film, everybody who's contributed financially to this. There are people who have been supporting us. We've raised a fair amount of money. We got to go to Australia for 3 months last year, for example. Extraordinary support that we've experienced from you, beloved people. Thank you. But here's the seed I want to leave. If we follow up on this idea on this show with Shonda, our friend Shonda, and John Raymer and Scott and whoever else chooses to be involved, we have not just the first Friday, but every Friday. So every month there's one of these episodes. And then every Friday, the first month we watch the film. The first Friday of each month, we do what we've done tonight. Then on the second, third, fourth Friday of the month, we have a discussion group. We meet online like this, and we perhaps say, Patrick McCollum, this guy's really interesting. Let's spend an entire session, an entire Friday dedicated to one or two of the people in the episode. So that's the idea. It could be someone you've never heard of, or someone you've heard of a lot and wanted to know more of, and invite them to come on if they possibly can. People are busy, and a lot of people there's an incredible resource of amazing people out there who nobody has really heard of very much. We've been seeking out extraordinary people, some of whom are very well known and some of whom are not well known at all. So I just want to plant those seeds. Okay?
Yes, that's our plan.
That's the plan. Let's see and we'd launch it in the fall. So we'd take the summer to get our act together and gear up and do it right.
Well,
do it well.
And we appreciate your financial support, because we're being called to Europe, to Portugal, to the Hollow Movement Wave conference in the end of May, and then to England to screen our films and share the trust frequency. So we really appreciate your support of our GoFundMe, because it all depends on the money we raise, that we'll be able to do all that. And we haven't reached our goal at this point. That we had a goal of 15,000 and we're at 5. So anything anyone can give is much appreciated so we can carry on. And meanwhile,
let me say this on that subject.
Speak.
We're funded to get to Portugal and back. The founders of the Hollow Movement, of the Wave, have actually, they're paying for our flight, and they're putting us up in this gorgeous hotel where the event is. So it's actually happening. That was the signal that this was actually real. That we actually have that covered. And as we're going to be there, and as I'm an Englishman and haven't been home in a while, to get over to England, and we've been getting bookings at some festivals near Glastonbury and on and on. So I think it's going to be a pivotal year for us. We're just having so much fun.
Yes, and Patrick wanted to speak.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going to go to Patrick in a moment, but since you talk about fundraising, I just want to go to the GoFundMe one more time. And I want to thank the people that are here that have donated. Thank you.
And look, it jumped up tonight. It was at 40, 45 something, and it's over 5,000 now.
Absolutely. So big thanks to Carol Simus. Thank you to Anne Francis Ellis. Thank you to
Francis Ellis. Bless you, bless you.
Thank you to Melanie Bennett. So these are some of the people that have donated.
Melanie Bennett. Oh, Melanie, we love you.
And Anne is actually an executive producer.
She's an executive producer on the film.
Well, there you go.
She is the resource, Scott, on near-death experience. We should get her on the show.
Oh, well, we should definitely have her on the show as well.
She did a PhD. She interviewed at least 1,000 near-death experiencers and put this beautiful academic but profoundly spiritual vision together.
Yeah. Anne Francis Ellis, her name is.
Well, I think we're winding down. I'm going to go to Patrick. And if any of our presenters have a final word you want to share, just raise your hand, like Patrick has. And we'll go to each of you for a final thought. And let's turn over to our beloved Patrick McCollum.
Hey, so I just wanted to share something a little bit on the side a lot of people may not know. So I've been addressing the issues in here from the perspective of me as the peacemaker doing the work I do with the indigenous people. But for those who don't know, my major in college was astrophysics, and I wrote a theory called the photon deluminization theory about 35 or 40 years ago. And it includes things about interdimensionality and light being this singular thing that's tying all these things together and allows for all these different things in our conversations that we've had. ETs, moving to higher realms, all these kind of things. So somewhere in the future, maybe it'd be fun to talk about that a little bit. Oh, and tomorrow's my birthday. Yay.
Happy birthday.
Hey. Well, let's go to gallery view. And let's all send lots and lots of love to Patrick. The great Paramahansa Yogananda taught that the best prayer of all is just maximum grace. So let's all pray and hold the vision for Patrick. Maximum grace for Patrick McCollum, for radiant health, for healing. I know that he's got some health issues. Maximum grace that truly he can play his role in saving the world. We love you, Patrick. Maximum grace and happy birthday.
Thank you.
We love you, Patrick.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, man.
And I want to report one thing from the room here in Carbondale. It's still full of people. There's a lot of people here who've stayed the course, and this is such a treat for us.
Yes, we really feel loved and beloved, and just so happy we can share these voices and this knowledge and this wisdom with the world through our filming.
And Leigh, thank you for coming, and here you are, still here. Can't wait to come visit the beautiful hieroglyph again. It's been a while.
And I'm so delighted for you both because you are true champions and dedicated custodians of all things that matter. And as you know, one of my favorite mottos is say yes rather than yikes. And you're adding to the yes rather than the yikes, and that there is no reality, only probability. I choose this one, and I choose the one that you're honoring. And I think if we honor that together, like honoring Patrick as a prayer, I really feel that, this is the moment that we honor that it's not simply chaos, it is an emerging renaissance. There is an awakening, there is a rebirth. And if it doesn't include all of us, it's not the story. And that's the beauty of Gaia. She loves us all. And it's not about who to hate, but who to love and who to forgive.
Absolutely.
And welcome them.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Leigh, did I hear that you're in the Painted Cave district of Santa Barbara?
Actually, Malibu. So I'm down with the Shumash petroglyphs.
Right.
Santa Barbara is.
Yeah, there's also a Painted Cave district in Santa Barbara that I'm very familiar with.
Which everyone should go to and to spend some time with, because I tell you, the ancestors are just waiting for us to come home.
Absolutely.
Not to leave, it's to finally be here now.
Okay.
I'm going to bring up all of the people that were kind of a major part of putting this together. And thank you to Rita Marsh, who's been hosting the live event. Thank you to Ingrid. And where is our Circle of Fire? Chandra, there she is. So a big thanks to everybody who's put this together. Please, let's support Andrew and Connie. Even if you don't have a lot of money to put in, just $5 lets them know that, hey, I really appreciated this. Imagine, like a ticket for a movie is going to be at least 10 or 12 bucks, maybe 15. So your donations really mean a lot. Please spread the word. Also, maybe let them know. I think they were asking for feedback. Can you imagine meeting every Friday? Of course, first Friday of the month, ideally, we're going to get a new episode, a new 30-minute episode. Who wants to come in once a month, and who might want to come every Friday? So give them that feedback. That would be very, very valuable. And you can put that in the chat box, which of course we're going to save. And anyone else want to share any final thoughts before we conclude for the evening?
I would just like to say thank you from everyone here in Carbondale who was able to participate. And one of the stars of tonight's program, I think, was Birdie Jaworski. I have taken classes from her, and she is outstanding. I love her. She's such a kick. So glad to hear that Connie and Andrew have put her in the film. And of course, Patrick, what a delight to see you again. I think we first met in Crestone, Colorado, umpteen years ago, and it's been adventure after adventure since then. So it's like coming home with family here to see Ingrid and meet the new folks who were in the film. And Leigh McCloskey, you knocked it out of the park. My goodness. Bless you for supporting the arts and calling us all home to our hearts in such a beautiful way. Is there anyone else here in the room who would like to say something before we close?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
And Scott,
Thank you.
Amazing job hosting. Your master.
Yay!
My pleasure. Thank you.
And Shonda behind the scenes. Wonderful. So
Do you
good
see
to meet everyone.
Sophia's parents there?
Those are our good friends.
Those are our best friends in the whole world.
Oh, I thought there were a couple of Pleiadians that had come beaming in.
Oh, this is true.
They are.
Yeah.
They've got the look. Chandra, is there anything you'd like to share before we close?
Yes, of course. Thank you, brother. I just would like to give a great shout out to the Sign Network and the One World family for use of the sacred Global Fire Ceremony Room to launch these series. And we look forward to being back here on the One World community space. And with that, what an amazing launch, Cosmic Contact. What an amazing energy. Thank you, Connie and Andrew, for all your hard work. And my beloved sister Rita for hosting with us tonight.
Well, Shonda, you really made it happen globally.
Yeah,
So we are indebted to you and Ingrid and Sign Network and John Raymer and Scott Catamas.
Just want to say, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. You have hosted this so elegantly and in such a beautiful, balanced, heartfelt way. Thank you.
My pleasure. I always like to honor our guests in the Zoom room and live. And a great way to close is Dia Therese just wrote what I think all of us are feeling. She wrote, "And Andrew, I have loved you two lovebirds from the first time I saw you on Saturday Night Alive. I am honored, as we all are honored, to contribute to your venture. Namaste, dear ones." Namaste. And as Swami Beyondana would say, namaste. Namaste.
Let's go.
So I just want to honor Susan and Sophia and Patrick and Leigh
and Birdie, who
and
really
Birdie
wanted to be with
come.
us.
She would have been such an asset. But each one of you have brought such a gift to this process and to the world. So thank you for joining us tonight.
And we're going to be doing it
We love
again.
you
We're doing it again in Sedona on this coming Wednesday. We're heading for Sedona, and we're going to be in Sedona for the Eagle, Quetzal, Condor event. We're going to do 2 shows with this on the 15th and the 27th.
at the Humankind Center. So
that's brand
thanks
new.
to everybody.
Yeah.
Blessings.
We love you.
Love to Carlos, Leigh.
Absolutely. Bless you all. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good
night.
Bye.
Bye. Woo.